we'll get started here. So I'm just really thrilled for everybody to join us today. As Alex and I have been talking about, the holidays are one of my favorite times of year, especially because of the food and that kind of thing. But we want to make sure that everyone's prepared for that engaging conversation that is going to happen around the dinner table. So for those that don't know me, I'm Karen Fryling, and together with Rebecca Johnson, we are the duo with Intero Real Estate Services on the Peninsula. And I've invited Alex Leitzes to join me today. He's not only a friend, but a cohort at our partner, Summitry Wealth Advisors. So we can put together some really helpful information that you're prepared when you're talking about real estate at that dinner table. So as I mentioned, this is kind of the subject matter, and here's the team. Here we are in all of our glory. Alex, myself, and my business partner. So we're going to kind of start it off because I'm getting this question on a daily basis. Is it the right time to sell? And probably unlike you're hearing in the media, the inventory remains extremely tight, if non-existent, especially in the Bay Area. Bay Area sales prices to list prices averaged about 102.6% this year, believe it or not. And it's that lack of inventory that's keeping the pricing elevated, which obviously benefits sellers. But the other key thing to note is the prediction is that mortgage rates are expected to rise in the first half of 2024. This might see a decline in the number of home buyers in the market, and it possibly might stabilize prices as a result. But one thing I don't think a lot of people in the Bay Area understand, that according to some research that's been done, that sellers that get into the market or have the flexibility to get into the market around December to March often get the best results instead of waiting until the spring market. And that's because we're just basically a unique year-round real estate market. We don't deal with, the snow and things that kind of preclude people from wanting to go out and look at real estate. So, why wait for the spring when you can get out in front and probably get the best results that you can in the Bay Area market today? So that just kind of sets the stage for, why we're kind of having this conversation, because there's no better time to sell than right now. So Alex, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. So before we kind of dive into some of the topics of conversation for today, just taking a step back, I'm Alex Leitzes. I'm a principal at Summitry. As Karen mentioned, we're a wealth management firm. And when you think about wealth management firms, there are lots of them, and it is a really broad category. Why we have this partnership with Summitry is where I want to start our conversation. We're a Bay Area focused firm. We all live in the Bay Area, work in the Bay Area. Some of us grew up here. A lot of us are transplants like myself. Life here is very unique. It is very opportunistic, and it can be very challenging, and it can be very disorienting. Disorienting can be a good thing or a bad thing. The reality is disorientation means you have to have a plan. It's hard to just kind of wing it. And so that's where this partnership stemmed from. Is real estate in the Bay Area is not an inconsequential decision at all. Right? I challenge anybody to find a piece of real estate or home to buy or even garage, let alone for less than 7 figures in the Bay Area. And so in recognizing that and recognizing other things, like we live in one of the most expensive parts of the country to live in. We live in a very high tax state. We live in a place where people are very fortunate to build wealth through concentration. Right? Concentration comes in a multitude of different capacities. Number one, it comes in the form of, hey, I work at insert tech company and have built my RSUs and ESPPs and stock option plans through that. And it's exploded over time, whether it be Google or Nvidia or Apple, you name it. And I have a lot of wealth through that. And I look at on paper and I have all this money, but the reality is it comes with a pretty significant tax burden. It also comes in the form and fashion of, hey, we bought this piece of real estate, right place, right time here in the Bay Area. And now our $1 million home is worth $3 million, or our family's $75,000 home bought in the 70s or 80s is now worth $4.5 million. Parents are looking to move. They're kind of getting up there in age, but it's disorienting to think about this potential tax bill. And you think about property tax, and all of these different considerations. And so what we've been fortunate to do over the last couple of years is be a resource to Karen, Rebecca, and their colleagues at Intero in helping clients in this disoriented fashion, right? Helping clients understand how this real estate decision impacts their short and long-term success as it pertains to their financial plan, their balance sheet, their cash flow needs, their taxes, their income in either in their current state or into retirement, whatever those circumstances may be. Our job is to help clients make sense of that. It's very easy for someone to figure out how to solve for A, but when A impacts B, C, D, and Z, and X, Y, and Z, it becomes very disorienting. So our job is to help understand how all these moving parts kind of flow together. How do the puzzle pieces get put back together, essentially? We do this through comprehensive financial planning. We take a very fine-tooth comb when we do our real estate analysis. One of the things that we'll certainly hopefully have an opportunity to talk about more in a one-on-one capacity is our investment grade in institutional knowledge and portfolio management, and how that benefits our clients in addition to the financial planning capability we have. Just to share a little bit more about the firm, we've been around for 20 years. We're celebrating 20 years exactly on December 1st. We manage about $2 billion in client assets. We work with about 1,200 families, predominantly in the Bay Area, but all throughout California for other clients that we work with. A local firm. We've born and raised in the Bay Area through 4 offices now and a firm of 40 employees, and we're located in Foster City. So as I move forward, I want to take an opportunity to share what, as Karen, myself, and Rebecca were preparing for this, like what's relevant to everyone, right? What is sort of the masses? What are the circumstances that folks are dealing with that are causing them to take a step back, not make a decision, or make an active decision of not doing anything, right? Not doing something is making an active decision, and it may be the right thing, but what we try to do is let's put pen to paper and understand the quantitative and qualitative outputs to decide if that is the right thing to do. So I'm going to go through 3 scenarios that hopefully some of you folks in the audience can kind of see yourself in as I walk through these and giving you a sense of what all of this means. So first example, you have Patricia. She's widowed. Unfortunately, when her partner passed, she received a step up in basis on her property, meaning whatever the original purchase price was on the day of her partner's passing, she got a step up in that purchase price. So if the home was purchased for $100,000 on 1974 and partner passed away in 2015, whatever the price of that home was in 2015, that becomes the new original tax basis for the home, meaning whenever that home is sold, that's the basis you now use going forward. Patricia has adult children, has grandchildren, and for her place of disorientation is it's hard to maintain a home. One person in her 80s, there's costs associated with that. There's physical demand. There isn't a lot of ease in being a homeowner, worrying about the yard and the roof and all of these factors. And so one of the considerations she has is, how do I downsize? What does that mean in the Bay Area? How does one downsize? How do I make
it? Call that disorientation, Alex. I would call it the truth.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. It is the truth. Retirement. How do you plan for retirement? How do I think about things like long-term care, right? This is a reality for all of us when we think about, things that are certainly outpacing inflation in our world that are, again, let's talk about the truth and, everyday realities for folks, cost of education and cost of long-term care. So instead of kind of saying, well, we'll deal with it when we get there, what we try to help clients do is put together a plan. One of the things I always tell our clients is let us prepare you for the worst so you can enjoy the best, right? Our job is to make sure there's a plan in place. And obviously, as you look at this list of concerns, these are real feasible things that we want to make sure that we're putting a plan in action in order. And then you can see some of the other parts of the balance sheet. There's some taxable money. There's some retirement money. Obviously, this individual would be taking their RMDs, required minimum distributions, so they have a steady stream of income coming from their retirement. But there's quite a bit of equity built up in that home. So what we're going to look at next is what that all looks like for the client if they are to sell this home. So on the right-hand side, you see some of the considerations. Before I kind of go through this, when you see these projections, recognize they are just linear. when we go through planning with clients, we talk through Monte Carlos and more positive outcomes, more negative outcomes. But for the sake of these visuals and what I'm trying to show here is, what does the decision to sell provide this person, right? It provides them with the flexibility of taking advantage of the step up in basis in this instance when a partner passes away, purchasing a $2 million property in the Sequoias, which is intended for folks, as they're transitioning to different ages, provides them with that additional support that they need. There's a multitude of different packages that come, whether it be the VI, whether it be the Sequoias. These are things that we're talking through clients with, and puts this individual in a better place in a life planning community that has that sort of support. It gives peace of mind for Patricia. It actually provides more disposable income, because that additional equity and the downsize in this situation provides Patricia with the opportunity for liquidity and the opportunity to grow those assets. And what you're looking here on the left-hand side is a projection of liquid assets. This does not assume the real estate purchase through Sequoia. So recognize that is a separate instance. What we're looking at here is the added value of the cash that is put to work for Patricia in this instance, in addition to the home purchase. And you can see kind of in that planning scenario what we're doing. Not only are we increasing living expenses in this instance to $130,000 a year, this also includes long-term care. So when we project for long-term care, we use $10,000 a month with a 4% inflationary rate. And you can see 10 years from now, that added 4% compounding continues to be significant. It's significant today as a $10,000 number. Think about that into the future, how that continues to compound. So giving Patricia and her family this peace of mind that there's more capital, meaning more liquid cash flow to work with, that provides her that stability and sort of that self-assurance or self-insurance that she needs in an instance where, God forbid, she needed that additional support as it pertains to cognitive decline or whatever may be the circumstance. And again, this is not going to be every exact person in the audience. Hopefully this is giving you a sense, and example number one, of how we kind of walk through this with clients. We build custom plans for all of our clients. I'll share more about that towards the end. So with that, we'll move on to snapshot number two. These individuals, retirement's on the horizon, right? Early to mid 50s, 2 kids in high school, purchased their home in the Bay Area, right time, bought that first home and probably just said, you know what, the 3-bedroom house has worked for us. We only ended up having a house of four. Worked for us, and the equity, as we all know in the Bay Area, has certainly been in their corner and in their favor. In this instance, a little bit more liquidity, but for these folks, the consideration is, how do we become work optional? I'm from the Bay Area. I spent time in Chicago working at JP Morgan in the private bank. It was always retirement, but in the Bay Area, there's this unique term called work optional. So folks in their 50s start to think about, how do I be work optional? Maybe do a passion project, work for a non-for-profit, just not be in a position to have to work. If I want to work, great. So that's sort of these individuals that we're trying to portray here. Their concerns, downsizing. How do we also look to diversify our assets and our balance sheet? But we have a lot of real estate, but it's one piece of real estate, and that can be concerning to some individuals. Obviously, for these folks, the concern is the tax liability. Their original purchase price, they have $6 million built up in equity in this home, meaning that comes with a hefty tax bill. So that may be disorienting for somebody. How do I think about that? Instead of saying, well, it's $6 million, I don't want that liability. Let's understand the opportunity cost. Let's put some scenarios to work and understand what you're providing yourself by potentially selling that home. Obviously, retirement planning, of course, is going to be a consideration when you're more reliant on passive income, and the kids' education and future expenses that one considers when they're thinking about that next transition. So same conceptual idea here. What we're looking at is the growth of the balance sheet. What we're able to provide here in this instance is pretty hefty expenses on a yearly basis, $300,000 a year, $25,000 a month. What these folks were able to do in this projected scenario, sell that home, purchase a new $3.5 million primary, reduce any debt and liability that they were carrying on the original property, also purchase a rental home, which allows them to diversify from an asset standpoint, provides them with additional cash flow and income in retirement. And again, as it was in the first scenario. All the considerations in here are the taxes being paid on a property, still a net benefit from a liquid standpoint for this individual as they're able to take that additional capital. At the end of the day, the more capital you have, that $300,000 number continues to grow with inflation. But what we never want to do is erode your capital, right? And so these are things we talk about with clients. I'm sure a lot of you on the call today have heard about the 4 or 5% rule. These are things that certainly we'll talk about with our clients and the relevancy of that, especially as you're looking at a time horizon here. You can see we're talking potentially 40 years of retirement. And so why I think these conversations are relevant is, we used to have this mindset that retirement happened and maybe it had 5 or 10 good years. Fortunately, with modern science and folks' ability to retire earlier, we could be talking 2, 3, 4 decades of that go mentality in retirement where people the quality of life matters, right? How do we make sure you're taking advantage of the time with the kids as they grow up? Where do they end up? The travel, the other, social and passion projects that individuals have and want to pursue. This is what these plans are allowing for an individual. This is the type of dynamic planning we're able to do for clients. And you can see some of the considerations we talked about here.
Alex, I got to add something here because when you're talking about, 40 years or something of retirement, Time Magazine had a cover story that said how in the future we may be living to be 130. So I guess financial planning could be a pretty important thing.
Oh gosh, I don't want to live in that world, but anyway,
I'm not sure I want to see myself what I look like.
What I do know is people are retiring early, right? People are retiring, especially in the Bay Area, probably relevant for a lot of you on this call, in their mid 40s, or I'm sorry, in their mid 50s, in their late 50s, where we're accustomed to, I watched my dad retire at 73, and is that the same? And not everyone has the same trajectory, but it's important to us to know what we see in the Bay Area, right? This is what we understand from the clients we work with, being work optional, having the ability to say, you know what, I don't want to work for 3 years, or I don't want to work for 5, or I want to start my own company. These are the things that matter to our clients. And we want to make sure we're able to provide a roadmap to that and put together a prudent strategy for our clients in those instances.
Last scenario, I like that average age of in the 50s retiring. Sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, hey, Karen, if that's relevant, then, by all means. Last scenario I'll talk through here a little bit further on in their age than the previous scenario. Noah and Laura just recently retired. What's providing them with their current stream of income is dual Social Security and a small pension. Balance sheet here, talking about roughly $2 million liquid and quite a bit of equity built up in that home. Don't have to provide financial support for their child. What they care about is retirement. How do they maximize that retirement plan? So again, here, you see if maybe some of these facts and considerations, you see yourself in them, $175,000 in expenses a year, selling that home, getting rid of that mortgage, yes, paying a tax, but building up that nest egg and seeing that wealth grow. Again, purchasing a new home. And again, as we look at these numbers, I know I sound like I'm, repeating record, but when we show these tables, we're showing just liquid assets. So this doesn't include the real estate, but what you can see ends up happening is these individuals have a little bit less than $2 million post-tax when the plan starts in 2023. And, through the next 30 years, they're able to maintain that and grow that asset level, which is pretty remarkable. The blue line is showing you what would happen in an instance where they didn't sell. The green shows you the added value by downsizing and adding to that capital. So in this instance, you can see in this scenario, they're getting around, sub $500,000 in liquidity towards those later stages of life. That's not a comfortable situation to be in because this is linear. This doesn't assume, the worst case scenarios or even not so great scenarios, or the scenario where this individual may need long-term care, or a catastrophic thing happens to the home, or being able to provide to their adult son or grandkids, whatever the circumstances, really limiting their options. At the end of the day, we're trying to provide our clients with expansive options. That's the goal that we're always trying to accomplish. And so I'm going to transition out of these scenarios. I hope these were relevant. These are what we do for our clients. This is comprehensive planning. It's real estate matters just as much as the investments, just as much as the income. They all play a role. Excuse me. So I want to spend a couple minutes just talking about Prop 19. Prop 19 is, I don't know, what are we coming on? 3-4 years of it. I think when lawmakers rolled out Prop 19, even they didn't know the impact, both good, bad, or otherwise, of the proposition. And I think it was a, I don't know, 700 or 800 page bill. I'm sure some legislation or legislators and lawmakers are still reading through it themselves. But what really matters to all of you are this impacted property tax and inheritance rules. So there's a rule that allows for homeowners who are 55 and up, disabled, or victims of wildfire or natural disasters to transfer their property tax anywhere within California. As long as it was within 2 years of the sale of your home, you can carry that property tax forward to a new home purchase. You're able to do this 3 times. So this can give clients a lot of that ease of saying, well, look, can't downsize in the Bay Area, but we want to stay in California. Well, this can broaden your lens a little bit or give you some peace of mind in knowing that original property tax basis, whether it be from 1988, 1998, 2008, we all know those would be lower property taxes than what would be on your current property today. This is something you can take advantage of.
And it's great to hear the flexibility of anywhere in the state of California, because prior to that, it was only 10 counties, correct, Alex?
That's correct. There were just a very few number of counties that this was relevant for, and what Prop 19 provided is, a broader spectrum for individuals in California to now take advantage of the 55 and up amendment to Prop 19. And you see in the bottom left, adjusting tax basis for inherited properties that are not used as a primary residence. I'm going to spend just a minute on that shortly, but I want to give an idea of what it means on the property tax basis. Don't feel like you have to read the screen. I am going to be able to share the slides with everybody. We have everyone's email. Obviously, send me an email. I'm going to share that at the end. Karen and Rebecca are going to share that as well. I don't want people to be doing the mental math here on this page, but what I want to give you a sense of, Prop 19 property tax basis is great for downsizing, right? If you're downsizing, you don't have to worry about a thing. If you're in the instance where you're upsizing, basically use $1 million as the barometer. So whatever your current property tax basis is adjusted at, add $1 million to that, and that's sort of the leeway Prop 19 affords you. So if your original property tax basis as of today is $1.2 million and you buy a home for $2 million, the difference there is $800,000, you're totally covered. If the home is that you now buy is $3 million, doing some math here, 1.2, you add $1 million, 2.2, you have to adjust, your property tax gets adjusted proportionately based on that additional $800,000 difference. I don't mean to sit here and do all of this math, but hopefully what I would take is, 2 key factors here. Great for downsize, and then you get that $1 million buffer if the home costs more than your current adjusted cash value or property tax basis on the home. So next, I just want to take a moment to talk about inheritance. I think I teased this in the beginning that there may be a relevant 90s reference. I don't know. Hopefully all of you know the dude, the Lebowski loophole, as I'll call it. So essentially what Prop 19 did for inherited properties is it eliminated the ability to keep the property tax basis if it is not your primary residence. So in an instance where folks pass away and a child inherits that property and makes it their own primary residence, the property tax basis can stay the same. It can transfer from generation to generation. What it doesn't allow is if that is then intended to be a second home, a vacation home, a rental, you're going to have that property tax reassessed. Why this is called the Lebowski loophole is Jeff Bridges inherited a property, I think maybe Laguna Beach, somewhere wonderful from his parents. The original property tax basis was like $7,000. This was like a $17 million home. Some of these numbers are not exact, but in these ballpark ranges. And people are like, yeah, that doesn't seem fair. He's now renting this home out for, I don't know, $20,000, $30,000 a month, and all it costs him is $7,000 in property tax. So California said, look, we want people to benefit from the step up in cost basis, which you were provided when you inherit the property, but the tax basis goes up. So this can be very prevalent to a lot of us, especially folks that grew up in California, have aging parents here or other family members where there may be a property to be inherited. This is going to be very relevant to them, and certainly a consideration when thinking about what to do with that home, right? Especially as we're, purpose of and timeliness of this conversation is Thanksgiving is coming up, holidays are coming up, going to be around family. These are difficult conversations to have. They can be conversations we want to tiptoe with, but at the end of the day, we all want to make sure that our families are in the best position. And I'm sure everyone's heirs and parents would want that for yourselves, whoever this may be relevant to, or if you're someone in this situation, you want to make sure your kids are set up to be successful. These are important conversations to have, and ones that myself, Karen, and Rebecca can certainly be a resource for.
So it's probably also a Boy Scout rule, I guess, best to be prepared, right, Alex?
Best to be prepared. I wasn't a Boy Scout, but I'm certainly on board with that. Lastly, before we jump to Q&A, we're very appreciative of your time. We know the holidays are coming up. It's the end of a work day. It's hard to get everybody to be around for this. So we appreciate you all attending. Something that I am going to offer, and Karen and Rebecca, we're going to offer to all of you, is the opportunity for Summitry to build a financial plan. This is something that we generally have Karen and Rebecca provide to their clients when they buy or sell a home of a certain denomination. Today, we're just going to provide that to all of you that are able to attend, because we really want you to, hopefully this was empowering conversation. Hopefully you see the value. Hopefully you can then say, instead of me seeing this in generalities, let me see how this impacts me and my situation. And this is something we're able to afford to all of you. It's why, I'm going to share my email. Rebecca and Karen are going to follow up so that we can set up that opportunity to give you a sense. A basic financial plan is expensive. They cost somewhere between $3,000 to $5,000 for a basic plan. They could be well north of 5 figures. Just to give you a sense of how broad these categories can be, talking about the balance sheet, we're talking about, different planning scenarios. You think about a scenario where you want to retire early, buy that second home in Tahoe, help the kids with the weddings and the cars. All of these considerations are important. All of these, as you look at them in isolation, may be an easy thing to think about. When you look at them holistically, it can be very disorienting. This is what planning can provide you. How do we create a roadmap? How do we provide tax mitigation? How do we provide real estate analysis? All of that comes as we build out a complimentary financial plan for you. So my last point would be, real estate is a very significant decision that generally is pretty infrequent, right? You think about things that we decide. You decide what shirt to wear. Not that significant. Happens every day. I hope some of you are fortunate enough to be selling real estate, buying and selling real estate every single week. But for the vast majority of us, it's relatively infrequent, but a really significant decision, and not one to take lightly. And that's why we do this. That's why we've created this partnership. It's why we've been able to help hundreds of folks make the right decisions for themselves today, tomorrow, and into the future. As I mentioned, here's my contact information. Here's what we're going to hope to do here next. Obviously, provide that financial plan to all of you. Continue engaging in the conversation with myself, Rebecca, and Karen. And with that, I want to turn it to Q&A.
So let's see, there's some great questions coming in. So the first question, in California, at what age can I transfer my property tax basis, and how many times can I do it? And I think Alex briefly referenced that when we were talking about Prop 19, but at age 55, you can transfer your property tax basis. But now the beauty is you can do it 3 times in any county in the state of California. Before, it was only 10 counties, and you could only do it once. So this is really beneficial to people that might want to take the opportunity of, again, selling after 55 and transferring to, another location in California.
I have nothing to add. No, that's great, Karen.
So another great question. Can the sale of our family home qualify for a 1031 exchange? I'll let you grab that one, Alex.
So we've got a couple of questions here, and what I'm going to say is it's always through the lens of planning. Can you do it? Yes. Should you? It's hard to say. One of the benefits of having a primary residence is the $250,000 exclusion. So for folks, a couple, that could be $500,000 that you're giving up through the exclusion. That comes into the planning, right? Does that make sense because of the consideration of taxes on a really highly appreciated piece of real estate? Sure. We put that to planning. We kind of go through that and understand what that ultimately looks like. So the answer is, can you? Yes. Should you? it really depends. Everyone's situation is unique, and that's where the planning can come into play.
So let's see here. My sister is worried about the tax impact of selling our parents' house in Menlo Park.
Yeah, I'd imagine that a home in Menlo Park that's been owned for, I don't know, 30, 40 years, probably pretty highly appreciated. Probably better than the home I grew up in outside Philadelphia. But that's
Or mine in
neither
Michigan.
here nor there. Yeah, exactly. Right. Again, talk about right place, right time. It's a fair consideration. We have a lot of clients with disorientation around that. So ultimately, there's a quantitative and qualitative element to that, right? Quality of life matters. Again, if you think about the first example I talked through, like, is this becoming a burden? Is this becoming a burden not just to the parents, but maybe to the individual? This is a brother and a sister and a sister, whoever it may be. Like, all of these considerations matter qualitatively, and then quantitatively, what we do is we talk through what is the tax burden here? What is the opportunity cost of not selling it, right? What does it afford your parents and your family and your parents' heirs, you, etc., grandkids, and the like? What does it provide those individuals? So absolutely something to worry about, but the only way to resolve that worry is to go through a plan and really be able to kind of show those numbers and what that looks like, right? Because for an individual, we could be talking, somewhere between 20 and 35% in capital gains living in the state of California and some of the other sub taxes that need to be paid. These are significant numbers. They certainly are inconsequential, or I'm sorry, they're certainly consequential. But talking through them is going to allow us to take that worry away.
So I'm kind of hearing a common thread here that planning is key.
Planning is key. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but that's the reality. I think we're all very fortunate to live in a state where real estate is significant because it's allowed a lot of folks, like, the individual asked the question about their parents. I can tell with 100% certainty that home could be 7, 8, 20, 30 times what those individual paid for. These are great problems to have, but they are problems nonetheless. They can be disorienting. Go ahead, Karen.
Oh, I was just going to say, it looks like we have a question from Deborah that says, what are the 5 things to avoid during the process? So I'll start out with one, and in no particular order, is not having a plan. Because I think that we never know, you kind of have to expect the unexpected. And so, whether you're in retirement, approaching retirement, or whatever, having a plan is key. So not having one is not the best to do for financial planning.
Yeah. Some of the other things that come to mind are, having trusted partners to work with. One of the benefits of the work we do is we can take the emotion out of it. I mean, we all recognize, number one, our balance sheets are emotional. The money we work for, the homes that we've been able to provide, the memories, whatever, it's the comfort and stability is provided for family. Those are absolutely important considerations. I think being unrealistic is something to avoid. That's the benefit of having Karen and Rebecca in your corner, is they are experts in the market, not only, locality, but understanding the general real estate market in California, how interest rates have impact things. And I would say, lastly, don't look at it in isolation. That would be my kind of last point, is because of a lot of things I talked about today, the impact and, the impact of real estate on our clients' balance sheets. You have to think about all these other considerations, the taxes that come with it, what the income it can provide to you. If you're thinking about downsizing, if you're thinking about upsizing, how much more are things going to cost, right? And my last one, so I can give a fifth, because Karen gave one and I'll give 4, would be interest rates, right? Like, don't let that be the reason why you don't make a decision. We could talk about where they're headed, speculate on that, but also recognize that that shouldn't be the ultimate determining factor in any decision around real estate.
Because I always say, you know what, marry the house, you can date the rate. There's always a time when you're going to be able to refi.
There you go. That's a good saying.
So let's see here. Another question. Can you help sell my dad's, Karen and Rebecca, can you help sell my dad's house in Santa Clara quickly? Yeah, I would say we can sell it really quickly. The last listing that we had, and that was probably just about a month ago, sold in 36 hours. So if people think that we have a very inactive market, they're wrong. Like I said, inventory's low and there are buyers out there regardless of the interest rates. Just because of what I said, we're guiding all our buyers to marry the house, date the rate before rates start to go down a bit and the floodgates open, and you're going to have a ton of competition. So would welcome the opportunity to sell your dad's house in Santa Clara.
36 hours. I wasn't sure if you meant 36 days, but man.
No, 36 hours.
Be in the world record books.
Yeah, just email me. I'll tell you how we did it.
All right. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so we'll take this question. How does a living trust avoid probate?
Yeah, so keeping it really high level, the trust, basically, the trust in tandem with a will states legally what you want your assets to go. So really what we help clients understand is, let's look at your entire balance sheet and understand what needs to be in trust and why, and where these assets are intended to go. Because if you don't have things in trust and there aren't beneficiaries on things, you can go through probate. And I can tell you two things of certainty in California: probate is long and probate is expensive. Great question. What is the fees to work with Summitry? So we as a business charge for assets under management, but that's actively managed assets for most of our clients. Obviously, is one of the topics of today is real estate. Not everything is liquid. Not everything is investable. So we charge for assets under management, but we provide comprehensive financial planning for our clients' entire balance sheets. Certainly can talk more specifically about fees because based on assets, there's different fee breaks as it relates to our overall fee structure.
So how will Prop 19 impact my mom's house sold in Portola Valley? I think we answered that, but go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, no, I think like this is a really general question. It can impact in quite a few ways. Is if mom is trying to go and buy a second home, obviously, as long as she's north of 55, she'll be able to take advantage of the property tax rate basis. If mom has unfortunately passed away, obviously different considerations there from an inheritance standpoint. So I would say this is absolutely a great question with quite a bit of complexity. This is where utilizing Karen, Rebecca, and myself will be really valuable. Directed at me. What do we need for a planning session? An email to me. Send me an email. I will share my email again for sake of relevancy of the question. So give me 1 second here. This is my email. Send me an email. That's really all you need to do. We will kind of walk you through the comprehensive steps from there. How does Summitry analyze my real estate? So we utilize our financial planning software. I have 14 advisors on my team. All of them are credentialed with certified financial planning designation, which is essentially the equivalency of getting a master's in financial planning. So what we're able to do is understand if this is a primary, what the impacts are, what the costs are. Are you depreciating this appropriately as it relates to your taxes? If it's rental property, they're looking at depreciation, looking at the run rate, looking at cap rates, all of those, looking at 1031 as an option. There's a multitude of ways that we're able to help clients analyze their real estate. So what does Summitry invest in? We invest in complementary assets to real estate. So there's a multitude of things. We're talking about a vast array of equity opportunities. There's fixed income. There's things like, other asset classes, whether that be small cap or international, alternative investments. Really, I know I'm just kind of spouting off a list, but there's a broad category dependent on a client's asset level that we're able to invest in. And we, the benefit of the planning is planning leads us to solutions. We never lead with strategies. Planning allows us to understand what strategies and solutions are most appropriate and customized based on our clients' needs.
Okay, we have great questions here, and we really appreciate you guys reaching out with the questions and taking the time to join us on this live event. If you have further questions about any of the topics that we talked about, or want a copy of the slide deck, or want a planning session with Alex, here's our emails. Just know that we're here to answer any questions that you guys have, and here to help you in any way that you can. So I know that we're between you guys and dinner. So thanks again for taking the time, and thank you, Alex, for joining me on this.
Of course. I mean, on the topic of what you can talk about at the dinner table, here you go. So I'm glad we were able to provide food for thought, if you will, Karen. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from all of you. Obviously, really appreciate the time. Certainly more to follow up on. And hopefully you all found this valuable, and look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Yeah, so no need to wait for the holiday dinner conversation. You can start tonight.
Perfect.
Okay. Have a great evening, everyone.
Take care, everyone.